The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and not of DoD or any of its components.
Take me to the countryside. Gotta get out of these city lights. Drinking my cup, got me feeling right.
And we're on. Okay, so what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rising Sun podcast with Dean Howell. I am thrilled about the guest that we have on today, David Carter, a close friend and quite frankly, one of the people that I look up to the most as a mentor. He was my command master chief when I was on the Navy Region Hawaii staff. He went on to be the Information Warfare Force Master Chief before retiring after 34 years of honorable service in the United States Navy. David, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. I know you checked out some of the podcasts before, so they can get a little wild. It's about almost 9 o'clock in the morning here in Japan, so I will not be having any adult beverages, unfortunately. But I'm glad that you are, man.
Well, it's 7 o'clock here Central Time in Tennessee. So, what else do you do in Tennessee but drink Tennessee whiskey and have a fine stogie? So
I love it, man. Dude, I just
hey, bro, I just want to say it's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I've been watching you grow and do some fantastic things. I'm very proud of what you are doing and what you're going to do. I consider it an honor to be, have played maybe a small part in that. And I'm just, brother, so proud of you, and looking forward to seeing what else you're going to do. But thanks for inviting me, and looking forward to having some fun.
Awesome, David. Yeah, I appreciate all of that, man. And before we hit record, we were kind of talking about the things that I've been able to do here in Misawa with joint and bilateral, activities with our Japanese counterparts and also with the Air Force. Misawa is this very special place in the Navy. It's not a joint base, but it's probably actually better than a joint base in the sense that we all still have our own responsibilities. And in any case, and like I was telling you before we got started, man, I was watching closely and appreciate all of the mentorship that you gave me when we were at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam together. The way that you were intentional about growing those relationships, those joint relationships there in Hawaii. Like I said, man, I was taking notes, and when I came to Misawa, I took a lot of that experience and the things that you showed me would be successful and put them into effect these last 2 years here in Misawa, and it's just been fantastic. So thank you. I can't thank you enough, man.
You bet, brother. It's all about relationships and not transactional relationships, but transformational relationships and what they become. And I've been watching you from afar, and just very impressed with how you're doing that. And the goodness shows. You got great things going on there. Fantastic stuff, man.
Awesome. So let me just get a couple admin things out of the way. First of all, for the listeners, you're probably going to hear some fucking birds chirping. I've talked about this in the last couple episodes. So I'm watching a friend's birds while he's on leave in the States. I thought it would be nice to have some company. I fucking hate them. Like, really, I hate them. I hate them. I can't wait until they're gone. And so during the podcast, you're going to hear them going crazy over there. It is what it is. But so sorry if that's distracting for the audience, but it is what it is. I was trying to do a solid for a friend, and fuck these birds. So, so David, as we get started, man, I know a lot of this stuff, but sometimes we'll go into topics.
We'll hash stuff over, bro.
Yeah, we'll go into topics that are really for the viewers. So if you can kind of tell us, David Carter's origin story, like where you're from, how'd you grow up, and then how did you get to where you're at now with that fantastic fucking goatee?
Righteous. Anyway, well, it all kind of started in New England, kind of. That's my family heritage. My dad's side of the family is from Maine. Actually, we trace our lineage back to the settlers of Maine, which came directly from Scotland and Ireland. So I've got a lot of Celtic blood in my soul. My mom's side of the family is from Massachusetts. They've been there a very long time. I'm a descendant of General Putnam, who fought in the Revolutionary War. So I got a lot of roots there. The interesting twist to it is I was born in Southern California. The black sheep of the family. I'm the only one in the family who wasn't born in New England. My dad, obviously from Maine. My mom, my brother, my two sisters, all born in Marlborough, Massachusetts. David was born in California. That's probably why I'm the strange one of the family. But grew up on Cape Cod predominantly in Massachusetts, and moved to Florida when I was 14. My dad was in residential construction. This would have been the late 70s. So business was really kind of bad up in New England at that time. And he saw the boom going on in Florida and kind of jumped on that ahead of time. So moved to Florida when I was 14, went to high school there in Vero Beach, Florida, which is South Central. It's kind of in between Lauderdale and Daytona. Nice place, more retirement than anything, but nice town. Also a place I never desired to live in again. But anyway, it's a good place to visit.
But I
digress. Anyway, but I knew from about the age of 11 that I was going to join the military. It just kind of was in me. My dad was Navy before he met my mom, so it's not something that I grew up with, or he didn't talk about it a lot. He just served in the late 50s on a destroyer and an aircraft carrier, I think. He was back then it was an RD. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of a combination of OS and ET. So an RD is an operator who actually fixes their equipment, a radarman. And he parlayed that training into electronics, which he did initially when he left the Navy. And hence why I was born in California, because he was a contractor for NASA at the time and was transferred out to California from Massachusetts to work on the Saturn or Mercury series launches. I can't remember which. I was born out there. Then on the way back to Massachusetts, 10 months later, mom was pregnant with my sister, Amy. So anyway, I always kind of had this desire to serve in the military. And that flipped a little bit from Air Force to Navy. I was in Air Force ROTC in high school. But being a child of the 80s, recreational, pharmaceutical experiments got me disqualified from the Air Force. And the Navy's like, we got a waiver for you. Because I had an ASVAB of like 96. Yeah. So they were like, come on, Yeah. So, but unfortunately, it worked out very well. The Navy gave me exactly what I wanted. I wanted to work in computers. The Air Force wanted to make me an integrated avionics specialist, which is basically a box puller. I hate hot weather. Air Force wanted to send me to San Antonio in August. The Navy sent me to San Diego in October. Winning. So I joined the Navy and originally started out as a computer specialist, what we call a data systems technician back then. Served in the traditional roles. My first ship was a cruiser, and then kind of branched out to some other stuff, did some special projects. And around, it was in the 98, I think, they just established a DS rating. I became an ET or an electronics technician, but still working computers at that. I kind of progressed up into like classified networks, standard stuff. And then I went to work in the special warfare community for a while, which I absolutely loved. Had a great time, did some cool things, stuff I still can't talk about today, but it was a awesome time. But I knew I wanted to do bigger and better things. So I left the special warfare community, went back to sea an aircraft carrier as a senior chief, and then went into the command program, and then was a command senior enlisted leader for 14 years. Did a total of 6 command tours to include an aircraft carrier, Naval Station Norfolk, the world's largest naval station, a Navy region, Hawaii. And I finished my career as the Force Master Chief for Information Warfare, where I worked for a 3-star admiral, and we were responsible for the roughly 56,000 sailors in the information warfare community.
Yeah.
So had a great time in the Navy, very good to me and my family. Both my boys are serving in the Navy today. One's an officer, a naval aviator, NFO and E2Ds. And my younger is a fire controlman, or he works on radar and weapon systems. He's a NATO Sea Sparrow tech by trade. He's currently deployed in the on an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean, and just picked up E5 a couple months ago with less than 3 years in the Navy. So very proud of him. And I retired. Terry and I moved down here to Tennessee, and I currently work for a VA specialty mortgage company as their national director of education. So I get to go out and teach vets and service members about their VA home benefits and help them get a home of their own and realize that American dream of home ownership. So life is good.
Absolutely, man. That's it's a fantastic career. Again, we've talked about a lot of this stuff. Like, you came in as a command senior chief when you were still rated. You were still rated as an ETCS, right? Before we
right. I was the third year group of command senior chiefs. And yes, but I made 9. I found out I made 9 while I was in the CMC Cop course. So I actually went to my first command as a FROC ETCM.
Yeah.
But I was ETCM serving in a command billet. And at that time, they didn't really know what they were going to do with us. They hadn't figured that part out yet. But when I started, just before I started getting paid, they just decided, well, we're just going to fleet you up. So I was technically an ETCM for about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
A paid ETCM, should I say, because I was FROC for like 18 months. I was number 7 of 7 on the 9 list that year, but it's okay because it's better than being number 1 the next year, right?
Yeah.
And it was right at the 20-year point, and my first time up for 9, so I was like, great. Woo, I'm number 7. Yay. But I was still, it was kind of confusing for a while because I was the command master chief, a 9578 at the time, I think it was, but an ETCM. And then as soon as I started getting paid, my actual title was upgrading the system. I became a CMDCM.
Right. Okay. That's awesome, man. So you kind of talked about your family a little bit. It was good seeing Terry. We talked a little bit before the podcast.
She was saying, what, they were recording me? Oh, my hair looks awful. I was wearing a t-shirt. I was like, don't worry, he's going to cut that out. It's not going on the podcast.
Not for public consumption. This one is for public consumption. That, not so much, right? Yeah. Yeah, man. So tell me about you and Terry. Like, how did you guys meet? And
oh, wow. Well, I say we met the right way. We met in church.
Oh,
probably why we've been married 32 years now, just over. But we met I was stationed in Norfolk. I was on USS Virginia. Actually, it was, I want to say late February. I had just gotten back from Ref Tray. I don't know if you remember that name or not, but refresher training. We used to still do it down at Gitmo.
mm-hmm.
So we had come back from that. I had just earned my surface warfare qualification as an E4. And I just met a new guy. He just checked in, a guy named Brad Garrett, who I'm still friends with today. And he was an ET. And there was a snowstorm, I think, when we got back. So we got stuck on the ship for a couple of days. I had an extra duty day or something like that. But we just, hey, let's go and get something to eat. So we went to the Ponderosa in Virginia Beach, so what used to be in Virginia Beach, Independence Boulevard, right? Back then, I used to be known as the all-you-can-eat buffet king, which is not necessarily a moniker that I am proud of. But, okay, there's worse things to be known for.
Yeah.
And Brad and I were sitting down, and I saw this young lady come in with her parents. It was a Saturday. And she's wearing this blue sock kind of dress, form-fitting. I'm like, ooh. If she hears me say this, she's probably like, oh, don't say that. But I kind of saw her from behind. I was like, righteous.
Okay.
And then they came to, and they sat in the booth over from ours. So her parents' their backs were to me, and she was facing me. And every time I looked up, she was making eyes at me. Now she won't admit this, but she was flirting hard. Right? She's a good Southern girl, so she's like, I was not flirting.
Yeah.
So we went through our meals, and we finished up. She left, or I left. I don't remember what, but it was like, well, it's nice to make eyes with a girl, right? Because trust me, I was no great catch. Okay, so it's not like I had women pounding at my door. So the next day, Brad and I decided to go to church, and it's a church I'd been going to down in Virginia Beach. I think it used to be called First Assembly back then. Great church, very lively. Very growing very rapidly. It's known as the Wave Church today. Huge church, part of an international kind of thing. Pastor Steve Kelly, and we went to what they call TNT, which is basically kind of a singles group, 20s and 30s. TNT, 20s and 30s. Mm-hmm. And I walked in, and there's Terry sitting in the front row. I'm like, So I'm looking over Brad, saying, "Hey, Brad, look." And sure enough, there she was. And I don't know if we conversed before or after, but I went up to her and asked her how her lunch was. That started a conversation. And come to find out, we had been in the same group for months. We just never connected. It was almost like God had put blinders up between us. It wasn't until the right time, kind of thing. And we chatted. I don't know if we went out with a group of people to lunch that day or not. Come to find out, her dad was in the Navy at the time. He was still on active duty. He was a DS as well, which is like, small world, right? And I knew within about 2 weeks that I was going to marry her.
Wow.
And she'll tell the story of, I was driving her home from church one day or something like that, and just kind of looked over and said, I'm going to marry you someday. And she kind of weirded out by it. And she was like, "Ooh, who is it? What's up with this dude?" But it grew on her, But we didn't get engaged until it was a while later. Because we had been dating 18 months when we got married. Down in Virginia Beach at Dam Neck, which now called Naval Air Station Oceana Dam Neck Annex. And it's been an interesting ride ever since. I mean, she's my partner in crime. She's been a great Navy wife, very supportive of my career. When I go out and teach the classes that I teach on VA home loan benefits, I have a kind of intro slide where I talk about my career just to make connection with the crowd, especially with vets, because you know as well as I do when someone comes out to give you a presentation about your benefits or your service, especially someone looks like me with a big beard and everything, and you go, all right, who's this dude? Why is he talking to me about my benefits, right? You kind of want to make that vet connection, right?
Right.
And I always talk about military spouses and how important they are, because they are. We don't get to do what we do without the support on the home front. And I know I wouldn't be where I'm at today without her and her love and support. So I always make it a point of pointing out, hey, this is my best friend, my partner in crime, my life partner. And,
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I think, I don't know if I've ever told you. So like Mommy and I, so we met at, there's this, it's a Dutch theme park down by Sasebo. It's called Huistenbosch, right? Huistenbosch, right? Huistenbosch, right? And I was a young E4 man. It was a Sunday. I remember it was a Sunday because I woke up in my rack Sunday morning and we had been steaming.
We actually used to live on ships.
100%. There was no such thing as home port ashore. I had a rack.
Which I think was one of the worst decisions that we have ever made, but that's a whole nother story.
Right. So we can get into that here in a second. But so here I am in my rack, and I woke up and I was like, Jesus Christ, I was hungover, right? And I was like,
no.
I stirred up.
So.
Yeah. I stir a couple of the guys. I was like, hey man, what are we gonna do today? They're like, oh man. I was like, dude, let's don't go to the bar, man. I don't have it in me, man. I don't want to do it.
My liver is almost wrecked.
Yeah.
I'm 18 years old.
Yeah,
Come on.
This is 22-year-old Dean. I came in a little bit later, right? And so I was like, hey man, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the train station, and we're gonna look at the board, and wherever is the cheapest place to go, we're gonna go there, right? And so we did, and I had heard about this place, Bosch, and so I like we looked, and it was cheap. It was like 200 yen to go. And I was like, boom, let's go to Bosch, man. I keep hearing about this place. And we get there, and we're a bunch of broke E4, E3s. And we get there, and it's 5,000 yen to get in the gate. I was like, oh man, this is this is a bad decision. So we did it. We were like, all right, we pulled our money together to make sure everybody could get in. And so it's a Dutch theme park. So Heineken was readily available. Let's just say that.
Let's skip the bar, but let's go to a theme park and drink instead.
That's what we did. And anyways, the end of the night is the craziest thing, right? Like I still think about it. It feels like it's not real. So we're at a Dutch theme park in pretty rural Japan, and there was a Cuban band playing at the end of the night, right? Like salsa. I don't know if it's Cuba salsa, but it was
way
like
too much cultural integration going on there.
it was wild, right? And so here's a couple of like, white guys and Cuban band at a Dutch theme park. And we look up in the front row, and Mommy and her best friend, Chica, were sitting in the front row. And, when you're 22, it's like, what's the worst that could happen is they say, like, go away, right? So we go and we talk to them, and actually the trains had stopped running, so we had to ask them for a ride back to base, which they obliged. They gave us a ride back to base. We exchanged email address, and that was, and then we got underway the next day, right? Like the next day we got.
You know how old you're making me feel right now? When you were a young E4, you exchanged email addresses.
Yeah.
When I was a young E4, we may have had a computer, a Zenith 248, in the workshop. Only doctors had pagers. Yeah, it's so you're like, oh, I was exchanging emails as E4. Now you're command master. She's like, dude, stop it, man.
But it is what it is, right? Like these days, it's like.
Are you over 20 yet?
I've doubled up finally, man. I'm 42, so I doubled up not that long ago. Yeah. So, anyways, man, the end of the story is that, Robert, we called him Lunchbox because he was fat. So Box for short, right? So Box ended up marrying Chica, and I married Mommy, and so we married like two best friends married best friends, which was pretty cool, man. The best.
Are Box and Chica still married?
They are. They
Okay,
have
good.
Four beautiful kids. Everybody's
Awesome.
still together.
That's good.
The funny part of it is that, like, I asked Mommy to marry me twice. The first time she was like, I just met you. No. and then so I was like, okay, all right, I'm hanging there. And then we dated almost a year and some change. And then when I asked her the next time, she was about that life. So, fast forward, like I said, we're 19. Next year will be 20 years, man. So that's my girl, man. She's awesome. Yep. So man. And,
let me ask you then.
Yeah.
What's your secret to a successful marriage?
Oh boy. I think that it's probably it's teamwork, right? Especially as you're raising a family, right? And so it after you're married, I think if you make it through 5 years, you're probably in good shape, right? Because that first 5 years of marriage is hard, man, because you're learning each other, and you may have a kid, and so then some of the extracurricular activities aren't the same as they used to be, and so then you become partners, right? And once you become teammates in raising a family, and you commit to, being giving to the other person's needs, and then also accepting, those reciprocations, like that's it, right? Like once you decide that you're life partners,
yeah,
and you're on the same page with that, then I think that you can make it through almost anything in a marriage, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. How about you, man? I mean, you guys are going on 32 years.
But yeah, you already covered, part of it. Obviously teamwork. 2 is devotion, right? Yeah, like you said, in it. Yeah, when I said I do, I meant I do forever, right? There is no going back. And unfortunately, in today's society, when people say I do, it's kind of like with a question mark at the end. It's maybe if this doesn't work out, but that's the absolute wrong mentality to go into marriage. That's why, when I met Terry, I kind of knew this is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Right.
And not physically, we didn't have a physical relationship, and nowadays that seems obligatory, right? Like, oh, if you don't, you got to kick the tires before you take it for a ride, that kind of thing. Because if you aren't compatible on a psychological level and an emotional level, the physical stuff wears off after a while.
Right.
So there's that piece. There's the devotion to each other, and there's also some stubbornness to like, damn it, this is going to work, right? But like you also said, there's got to be the amount of humility in there as well, a give and take piece, and being able to receive when you need it. Yeah. I'm not always the best at that. A lot of guys aren't, because we want to be the strong men. Oh, this is my Biden shirt. So
we're gonna get
cover that later. More to fall on that one.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
But there's some. I don't think there's any one answer to it, other than you got to be devoted to one another, and you got to be devoted to your marriage,
right?
And in a sacrosanct way. And if you're not,
yeah, I think that it's a marriage is a microcosm of like how you succeed in anything in life. And I think probably the number one word or quality is commitment, right? Like you have to be all in.
Absolutely.
All the time, right?
I think you probably put it in a nutshell right now. Committed to each other, committed to your faith, committed to your kids, committed to making it work because there's a lot of truth that for better, for worse. For in sickness and health. Right. There's a reason why those are in traditional vows, because that is life. That is a marriage. It's not going to be unicorns and lollipops all the time. Right. There are going to be days that it's just like, I got to go outside and vent to a tree before I do something I regret, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you have to get your head back in game and go, this is my wife. This is the person I'm committed to for life.
Yep.
I need to go back and fix this. That's when the humility comes in and goes, it's not about me.
Right. Yeah. I think, and especially being, a Navy wife. And I say Navy specifically, not just military, right? Because I think about how much time I've been gone, and it is just sad. Like, it's sad to me. It's sad, right? Like all the things I've missed my kids and just their ability to like hold it down, take care of business, make sure the bills are paid, make sure the lunchbox is packed, make sure the teenager's boyfriend just broke up with her and she's distraught. Like all these things.
I'm sure you've been to a few retirement ceremonies where they talk about the Navy wife.
I cry every time.
That is so true. And how well that's written, because I do think, and I'm not disparaging any other branch of the service, I respect them all, but our lifestyle, especially back then too, when we get underway, there was no communications.
Right.
There was no email. Right. There was no, when we wrote letters, we had to number them. because you didn't know in which order they were going to be delivered, you know, and or which one you're responding to, right? So yeah, I firmly believe it takes a special kind of person to be a Navy spouse, you know, especially in today's Navy, where it's not just women, it's not just Navy wives, there are Navy husbands as well.
Yeah,
it is a difficult lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, wow, man, that makes me want to call mommy. I need. Hey, baby,
yeah, because you're doing the whole geo badge thing, which God bless you, brother. I couldn't. Well, I could do it if I had to, right? But thank God I didn't have to. Yeah. But for those that do it and make it work, bro, mad respect.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, it's been one of the hardest things I've ever done. We did it intentionally. It was a family decision. We came to this point where Millie, my oldest, who just graduated this year, this year, she was going into her junior year, and the orders from Misawa, nobody wanted to take Misawa, right? And I was like, I'll take it. Talked to the family. I was like, listen, we can all go to Misawa, or you guys stay here, and I'll go to Misawa, and I'll knock it out 2 years. And the family decision was made that we wanted to create that stability for our kids, right? We moved them around so much. I just wanted them to be like in one.
That goes back to the making the marriage work thing, right? You made a decision for your children,
right?
Putting your children ahead of you for the time being, because at some point your kids are going to be gone. It'll be just you and Mamie again.
Yeah.
Mommy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The whole long A thing, but it was the right decision for you at that time. Now,
right.
Luckily, you're still in Japan, so I've seen the photos of you guys getting together and doing great things and having fun on the ski slopes and everything.
Yeah.
But your kids are going to thank you for that in the long run.
Yeah, and we've been able to make it work. I mean, if anything, I think we're probably stronger as a family now than we were before I came up here. Yeah. So blessing in disguise kind of thing. It's been great. So. Dude, let's talk about your kids, because I know you kind of briefly talked about them, but you've got one boy that is a naval aviator, right? NFO, and then you've got one that is a FC2 already after like 3 years, and he doesn't
even go over 3 until
deployed right now, right?
What's that?
He's deployed right now, right?
Yeah, he's on the Truman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oops, I'm sick. Oh my God. Anyway,
yeah, that's fine. It's all over Facebook. Keith Wilkerson puts it all over Facebook. Like we all know that the Truman is out there.
Yeah. Well, his picture was out there, during the frocking ceremony and all that other stuff. But very proud of the young lad. He picked up E5 a couple months ago now. Just super proud of him. One, he's never been a big test taker. I think I mentioned Terry homeschooled both of them all the way through, and John had some challenges early on with learning, reading, and writing. We think he might have had some minor dyslexia at the time, undiagnosed. Mm-hmm. Put that out there. I don't want any contractual problems for him, but but he has just really done some amazing things. So proud of both of them, but John picking up E5, especially being an enlisted guy, right? And my older son's an officer. Very proud of him. I was able to give him his first salute and everything. Yeah. Super proud of the moment. But when your youngest beats you, he made E5 faster than I did. I'm like, good on you, boy. Yeah. Keep it up. So very proud of him.
And they're both Eagle Scouts, right?
Yeah, they were both Eagle Scouts. In fact, they made Eagle in the same troop years apart. We had a short that stint in Hawaii.
Yeah.
He had wanted to make Eagle there, but when we went back to Virginia, we went back to our old troop. So it's kind of cool that he made Eagle in his old troop.
Yeah. So I'm an Eagle Scout. So my mom, when I made Eagle Scout, and by the way, I was that guy that was like, my dad was looking at me like, hey man, like, you're about to turn 18 here in a few months. Like, you need to get hot on this service project.
I was doing that with David. I'll let you finish your part of the story, but you got to hear David's story. Go ahead.
So I was 17, senior in high school. I had everything done. I just needed to do the service project.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my mom had bought. So he's my stepdad, right? But I call him dad. I mean, he's been my dad forever, right? And my mom had bought him a tie clip that had it had 7 eagles, kind of like in a circle kind of thing, right? And I was number 7, so 7 boys, right? Mormon.
Holy cow! God bless your mother.
Yeah, well, so.
Oh my goodness. Okay, never mind.
But God bless Sarah Packard, his first wife, who passed, who had
okay, got it. I got it.
14 children. Yeah, right. God bless her.
Wow.
So I was number 7, right? And so Bernie, my stepdad, is like, Dean, like your mom bought me this tie clip, and there's 7 sons and there's 7 eagles, so I need you to really like get this thing done. And so I did. I did a nice service project. I went to one of the state parks, and refinished all of the tabletops and benches for like the picnic tables and stuff. And so my mom made like a almost like a shadow box, what we would call a shadow box. It's got my merit badges. It's got my card. It's got my the arrow and all that stuff, right? And I keep it on my desk, right? Like in my office, because it's so important to me, right? Like, I never had any sons, but if I had, certainly I would have had them in the Boy Scouts. Even with, there's some controversy around it, these days with allowing girls in. Like, I still think it's a good organization,
Yeah. There's a new organization out there called Trail Life.
Okay.
Which was started by a couple Eagle Scouts who were kind of disenchanted with where BSA was going. Yeah. So it's kind of like a reset of scouting. So it's a very faith-based organization. Yeah. A lot of the original tenets. And they kind of did it right also from the perspective of the sponsorship of the group. So the groups belong to the churches that host them.
Which is how
like a ministry of that church.
That way.
Yeah. So unlike scouting, where it was a non-for-profit organization, the government could come in and tell them what to do, kind of, sort of. Whereas with Trail Life, because they're a church organization,
right?
But anyway, so we have a Trail Life troop down here, just south of us, that my American Legion post here in town is kind of sponsoring, but we're working with them. Of course, a lot of us have experience in scouting, and unfortunately, a lot of the adults down there don't. Right. So we're able to add to that, so it's a good relationship. But with John eagled out, he eagled out right about the right time, because we were looking at things, and the troop he belonged to was sponsored and hosted by a church, so it still had a lot of the same tenets, but we just didn't like where it was heading, and so eagled out a good time. But let me tell you about David.
Yeah.
So it was, I want to say junior. I was going on deployment on the Bush. I was the command master chief. We were going on a scheduled 9-month deployment, and this in 2014-15. So this is when ISIS popped up, right? So we were like the flat deck on scene, able to respond. But before I left, I think David was a first class scout, maybe.
Right.
And so I sat down with him and said, hey, map this out. You can do this, this, and this. And by the time I get back, you're already here, and I can help you with this. So I go on deployment. I come back. He is still a first class scout. And he's, I want to say he was at 17 at the time. And I'm like, dude, you gotta get hot on this, because he was homeschooled. He wanted to go to, he had already made up his mind. He wanted to go to VMI, Virginia Military Institute. He wanted to get in there. He wanted to become a naval aviator. So, good on him for completing that. But he he was dragging his feet. Some of the adults used to say, "Oh, he's got the fumes going on," like car fumes, perfumes, things like that. The distractions, right? And I really had to work on him hard. It's like, son, you're going to regret this if you don't finish it. And to his credit, he did, and he got into VMI, got an ROTC scholarship. So very proud of him for doing. But there was that point in time where it's like, ooh, I don't know if he's going to survive this.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my record. I have a waiver, so I certainly had some fumes
of sorts
of my own going on when it was
like I said. I joined in the 80s, and I don't think there was many people without a waiver back then. It's
exactly right. Yeah, that's good, man. I agree though. So like my troop, Three Rivers Council, Troop 118 in Texas, and
yep.
It was hosted by the Mormon Church, right? So
yep.
I grew up Mormon. We talked about this.
Yep.
So like we talk about black sheep, like I got. I was the only one that didn't go on a mission.
No wonder why there's 14 kids in your family.
So and I grew up in small town Louisiana before my parents split, right? And so like let me tell you something, brother. Like, it's hard growing up in a cult.
Especially when you leave the reservation. Yeah, that's.
I mean,
but I hope your parents are very proud of you for what you've accomplished.
And when I go home, I go to church with them.
Yeah, and I've seen the pictures. How you got a good family thing going on there. So,
it was a good way to be raised, but in small town Louisiana with predominantly Southern Baptist or Methodist population, like. I'm the Mormon kid. It's like, but it's all good. They're great people.
Elder Dean.
Yeah. That didn't happen.
No,
that part didn't happen. It would have been.
You have to do your missionary thing to become an elder or something like that, or
yeah. So they missionaries are called elders, right?
Okay.
And so they'll, again, I think that it's a great way to live life. If you look at the Mormon faith, they're all about family and community.
And I'm okay with that. The Mormon Church. I'm Christian. Unabashedly.
Yep.
I know some people are like, hey, but you're smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. Yeah, and I still know who Jesus is, and I know I'm going to hell without him. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quips on that is my brother, who was a firefighter down in Florida, knew this guy, and very salty individual, but very much a Jesus guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But cussing like a sailor and drinking and everything, and my brother would say, "How do you reconcile that?" And the guy looked at him and say, Rich, even a crooked stick can draw a straight line.
Huh.
But anyway, just up the hill from here, actually this way, is Mennonite community. We have a lot of Mennonites around here. And are you familiar with Mennonites?
I'm not. I've heard of it, but I'm not.
They're kind of like Amish light.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they live very not secluded, but what's the word I'm thinking of? They live in communities. They build their own houses. They kind of live off the grid. They don't believe in the kind of the power of the state kind of thing. Everything is to them is handed down to them from God. They dress very modestly. The bonnets, the long dresses. The men are wearing the hats. But with Mennonites, and there's different levels kind of them. They'll still use like battery powered lights, or they'll use solar to generate, or they'll have a generator, or they will use gas powered equipment, but they're not connected to the grid and things like that. And they're still very inclusive. But they like here, there's a whole community up in the hill called the Fall Creek Mennonite community, and it's a great place to shop. I mean, they have like a big nursery, they have a lumber yard, they have a general store, they have there's one place. It's my wife and I laugh about it. It's kind of like a bulk store, right?
Yeah.
You can buy big bags of flour and grosses of cans and stuff like that. So we call it Samuel's Club instead of Sam's Club. But great people, very friendly. You know, they come down the hill and they go to the farmer's market and they'll be selling fresh baked breads and stuff.
Yeah.
But I respect them for what they do and how they live.
Yeah.
And I don't disparage them, you know, although I believe in, you know, my beliefs are a little different than theirs, but I respect them and what they do and how they do it and how they raise their kids. And so, yeah, even I know plenty of Mormons, you know, and good people. Do our doctrines align? No. But at the end of the day, we worship the same God. So, you know, cheers.
100%, right? I think that
that's another funny part of the story. When we moved here, we started looking for a church, right? Because we very firmly believe in it, the fellowship of church and, you know, and believers. And we started looking for where we wanted to go. And, you know, we started checking, because a lot of Baptist churches down here, right? All teetotalers, or at least openly. You know how that goes. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I'm doing Baptist. I don't drink. But then they go fishing on the weekend with a 6-pack of Bud Light, right? But so we found the Methodist church, and they're like, "Yeah, drinking's fine. Oh, we're going to this church."
yeah. Drink. I mean, I drink.
It turns out that the pastor there is a VMI grad. So, and if you're at all familiar with Virginia Military Institute in the family of VMI, it's very tight knit.
Right.
So, yeah, that was another one of those signs like, oh, we're supposed to go to this church because there's a VMI grad here. But anyway,
I like it, man. I think that's important to pay attention to signs in your life, right? You know, something simple as a VMI grad or whatever, right? I think that God gives us signs, right?
There's a lot to be said for providence.
Right.
Right. Well, and I mentioned, you know, this house, and I think we talked about it offline, but you know, how we ended up in Dunlap, you know, because we were looking in the greater Chattanooga area on the other side of the mountain. But with the housing market at the time, this would have been late 2019, was crazy. You know, a lot of people moving to Tennessee. The houses are, you know, just going. And make a long story a little bit shorter, we found this house when we came down here for our house hunting on Labor Day weekend of 2019. And we came in, we loved the layout. It's they call it a single story ranch, but the basement is a walkout. So we're on a slope property and it's completely finished. So I have a man cave, I have my offices, where there's a wine room that I've turned into my, I call it the galley, but I've turned it into my bourbon room. Full bathroom, a guest room, and a complete workshop. And I have a lower garage door. So I have an upper 2-car garage, and then I have a lower garage driveway and a lower garage door for bringing in materials for woodworking and whatnot. But when we came to look at the house, it was already empty. The owner was a widow. Her husband had died about 18 months earlier of lung cancer. And I found out through some research that he was retired Navy. He was an 06, SWO, Surface Warfare Officer. So we're looking at the house. It's all hardwood. We like the construction. It's good, solid, built in 1976. So like we were talking about with construction, there's artistry in this house. You know, it's how it was built. And we walk out on the deck here, and you can see where I'm sitting now. And, you know, the sun's gone down over the mountain over there. It's beautiful. And I step out on the patio here and I look around and up see if I can show you. Up in the eaves here, there's some tongue and groove. Right, and there's a ship steering wheel there. I don't know if you can see it or not. But over there, what's that thing? That's an enlisted surface warfare insignia, right?
Yes.
Well, when we came to look at the house, it was still natural wood, so it was the golden color. So it was it was supposed to be a SWO pin, but you and I know the difference. The cross cutlasses, but it was cross cutlasses. But obviously, someone had bought it because of the SWO pin, and then finding out that the husband was a surface warfare officer. It was like, oh, but when I came, I didn't know that when I came in. So I'm walking out, I look up and like, what the hell? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Right, ship steering wheel. There's a porthole there with a mirror in. I took it down because I'm going to refinish that. Some other nautical stuff, and then I see this SWO pin. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! What is this about? And then we go downstairs. When we walk into the workshop, there's a doormat right there. Welcome, United States Navy. I'm like, oh God, this is it. This is this is where we're meant to be. Yeah, so we made the offer, and when we made the offer on the house, we full price offer. I told my realtor to tell the seller's realtor, hey, we're a retiring Navy family. I'm a retiring Master Chief. We want to keep this Navy family. 2 hours. Accepted the offer. We're good. Come to find out, the widow is also a Navy retired 06, a supply corps officer. Yeah.
Holy cow, man.
So we got a chance to meet her, and she did her service in the late 70s up into the 90s. So she was one of the first women at sea. So she's got some crazy stories, but she's a hoot. She's from Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
She's something else. But the day we closed on this house, I took that swope pin down, took it out of the garage, went down the hill to the Ace Hardware, right down the, bought some silver paint.
Yeah, let's make sure this is the right color.
And put it back up, and I sent a picture to Diane, the owner. I said, "Oh, see?" And she said, "Oh, the transition is complete." Yeah,
Love it, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
I go back to that Providence thing. It's like, we were meant to be here, and we absolutely love it.
Yeah. What's the what's the weather like? I mean,
not too bad.
Are y'all at elevation? So
no, we're not at elevation here. We could go up the mountains, which they're mountains for southeastern Pennsylvania. It's actually the southern end of the Smokies, is what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
It's beautiful. We still get the mist in the trees from the Smoky Mountain kind of thing. But we're maybe at a couple 100 feet above elevation in the valley here.
Right.
If you go up to the top of the mountain, it's maybe a couple 1,000 feet. And the temperature will drop depending, 6-7 degrees. So if it's hot and muggy down here, you can go up to the top of the mountain, go to lots of great state parks around here. So you can go find some comfortable air or a nice swimming hole to go in. It's great, but we love it here. So anybody listening in today, if you're looking for a great place to retire, Tennessee is fantastic.
Yeah.
By the way, didn't mention the house, gross livable, 1,900 square feet, but with the basement and everything, it's about 3,300 square feet, and I got a little over 2.5 acres of land. Wow. $245,000.
Stop it.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. Holy cow, man.
So come on down to Tennessee, y'all.
Yeah.
Only the good people, though. If you're
an
ass clown, don't come.
So I'm gonna make a head call real quick, and then let's get into that topic.
I'm just about done with this stick, so I'm gonna have to run downstairs and get over. So
go
back to the call. I'm gonna go get another stick.
All right,
brother.
I'm gonna keep it recording. Let's go.
Yep, I beat Dean back. I thought I was the old guy with a small bladder, but
I'm back.
I thought I was the old guy with a small bladder.
Yeah, man. It's when you gotta go, you gotta go. There's no use fighting it at this age. You know what I'm saying? It ain't happening.
Yeah, man. I know the feeling.
All right, David. So here's the part where I think we're gonna have some fun.
We're not having fun yet?
I've been having a great time so far. Look at that. That was an awesome torch, man. Hell yeah.
One of the best. I think this one's made by Z-Car. Love this thing. Tank lighter, nice desktop version.
Heck yeah. Okay, dude. So let's talk about it. What the fuck is going on in our country right now? And I have a disclaimer at the beginning of this podcast, so plus I don't think that many people are watching. But anyways.
I've heard your disclaimer, so we're good. Well, but I'm also retired and you're not. So, I'm going to get.
What the fuck is going on with our country right now?
Brother, fundamentally, this is a tough one for me. You probably feel the same way because I spent my entire adult life serving our country and the idea of our Constitution. Yeah, that's one thing that makes our country so much different. So you don't, It's not about a person. It's not about a flag. It's about our Constitution, right? And we're unique in that. Right? And our Constitution is a work of art. When you read it and dig into it and look into the backgrounds of the people who wrote it and their intent, when they wrote it and what was going on, I hate it when people try to define things with this kind of vision, because it's not that simple. You got to look at the context of the time, what was going on. Again, the individuals involved, but it's a work of art. The fact that it survived 270 years, some odd years already, is amazing. But the country that I joined the Navy in is not the same as today. And I'm proud of my service and what I did, but I'm not very proud of my country right now. And it hurts me to say that. It really does. And I don't say that lightly. I love where I'm at. There's a lot of great people in this country, so don't get me wrong there. But what's going on with our government is, one, what we have now as a federal government is never what our founding fathers intended. It's supposed to be limited government. They were supposed to provide for the security of the country and to create treaties with other nations. That was it. The limited scope. That's the purpose of a federal government. And the fact that we're a representative republic and not a democracy, right? So there's part of that artistry in there, right? The fact that we've got a government that just runs everything, and we get, you probably heard me say this before, but we fought a war back in the late 1770s to separate ourselves from a ruling class. Here we are, 270 some odd years later, we have a new ruling class. And what you see going on in DC is just, to me, it's disgusting. Yep. It's self-serving. Have you been to DC recently?
I haven't been maybe 5 years.
5 years, 6 years. Okay. Obviously, while I was still in active duty, I go to DC regularly. And I just felt an oppressive atmosphere every time I went to DC. I felt angry. I felt like this is wrong. We look around, look at the opulence there to begin with. How much money we spend on visual things is just, it's horrible. Except for like the artistry of monuments and things like that, but federal buildings that are just, we'll go around the Pentagon. Really, we're building museums in the Pentagon. We're spending all this money on these big pretty pictures and stuff. Come on. Why were we using that money to make sure our forces are as tactically ready as possible, right?
Yeah.
But what our government's become is not ever what it was intended.
Right.
And we got these idiots that we keep re-electing to office who are just tearing apart our Constitution. It breaks my heart. It really does. I'm not ashamed to say I'm in counseling. Obviously serving as long as I did at the level I did, and some of the things I did during my service. Yeah. Do you know? I just forgot Paul's name. He was the Fleet Forces Mass Chief.
Kingsbury.
Fleet Mass Chief. Paul.
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury. Yeah. Paul's a great guy. One of my mentors.
Yep.
But about a year or so before he retired, we met for coffee. He had already retired, and he sat down with me. We're talking about the transition things I need to do. And he said, "Hey, have you gone to get any mental health yet?" I'm like, "No, I don't need that." I was like, "Dude, you don't serve as long as you did at the levels you did and not be messed up."
Yeah.
And he was right. Especially at that time, I had a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of anxieties. So I'd been in counseling, for a while anyway, but when, this past couple years and what has happened, starting with the election in 2018 and everything, that has gone downhill from there. And it started before that, with some of these social things going on. It just breaks my heart to see where we're going and what our country has become. Now, I know that media has played a big part in that. I have another t-shirt. I'm a big fan of t-shirts these days. It says, the real virus is the media.
Yeah. And
it is. And I try to be careful about what I ingest, but I just can't help it because I still want to know what's going on. I don't want to stick my head in the ground and pretend like nothing's happening, because there things are. But I listen to a lot of other people. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff. And it's sad.
Yeah.
It just I didn't serve my country and the Constitution for so long to see what's happening today.
Yeah.
The division, the anger, and unfortunately, it tends to be one way. And I don't care what anybody thinks. You see left and right. We keep hearing about, the radical right, they're doing this and this, and it's like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but it's not the radical right that's out burning down cities or telling kids they need to go cut off the genitalia, or the left that's saying speech is violence, right? And if you don't think the way we do, we're going to silence you, right? This isn't America. This isn't what we were supposed to be.
I know, man.
And anyway, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but that's
exactly.
It does break my heart.
Let me tell you something, man, and I'm okay with saying this even on active duty, right? Yeah, I have a disclaimer, but it's hard, man. David, let me tell you something, man. Like as a friend and mentor, let me tell you, it's hard right now to be on active duty.
I know, and I feel sorry for my sons. They're Christian conservatives, and that's considered an extreme today.
Yeah.
These are guys who love people, who want people to be successful, but that's considered an extreme philosophy. Just because we have also certain beliefs that men are men and women are women. God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, that kind of thing, right? And I'm not disparaging people who have challenges with their sexuality or how they feel about things. I know mental health is a thing, but it's also not something we should be saying, "Oh, that's normal," either.
Right.
I've heard this term. Actually, this term was used the first time I heard it was in the Navy. The normalization of deviancy. Which I first heard it was in relation to Navy maintenance. Right, we saw this with McCain, right?
Yeah.
Where, we can't do this, so we're just going to kind of say that's okay for now. We just lower the bar. Next thing you know, it now becomes the norm.
Yeah.
Then we lower the bar again, and it becomes the norm. That's the normalization of deviancy, and we're seeing that thing in society. Like we're talking about marriage earlier. How many single families are out there? How many unwed mothers? That nuclear family is being torn apart.
Yeah.
But there's a whole segment of society is like, oh, that's okay. The nuclear family is an old-fashioned thing. It's not. It's how, for millennia, how societies grew and were successful.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry, brother. I need a drink.
Drink up, man. I agree. It's like if you normalize everything, then there's no rules, right?
Well, yeah, it goes along with if everything's right, then nothing's wrong, right?
That's it. If you normalize the most deviant, and when I say deviant, people hear deviant, they think, bad. Deviant doesn't mean bad. It just means that it's not within the normal construct of society.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. And that's exactly the way I mean it too. It's not in the norms. When something's not normal, what is it? It's abnormal.
Right.
Which is the opposite of normal.
Yeah.
But when you're saying that everything's normal, then there's no such thing as abnormal. It kind of goes along with the people. Well, my truth is that there's only one truth.
Right.
If everybody has their own truth, then that means there is no truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man.
It's a hard subject, and unfortunately, we can't even have a rational conversation about it nowadays because there's a segment of society, and granted, I think it's a small segment, but unfortunately, their voices are over amplified, and a lot of people are kowtowing to them. So it's the minority controlling the majority. When they say, "Oh, well, you can't say that. That's bad," or that's hate speech or whatever. No, why can't we just have a conversation about this? Why can't I express to you my opinions and let's talk this out? And it seems like every time you try to have a logical conversation with somebody on the other side, when you have a winning argument, next thing, you're whatever ist you want to be, right?
Yep.
They just start labeling people instead of, or shutting down the conversation completely.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of, why don't you try to see it from my side?
Yeah, it's dangerous, first of all. And it puts us in a place where, that people can't have rational conversations, and quite frankly, especially in the military, your speech is limited, right? Like that's just part of the gig, right?
And I do understand that from the perspective of, when we join the military, we understand we're giving up some of our rights, right? And as a senior enlisted leader, for as long as I was, I understood that there were things that I couldn't say for the good of the whole. An example, this is it was another epiphany moment for me. I was a senior chief. I was assigned to DevGRU, Naval Special Warfare Development Group, now known as SEAL Team 6. Back then, that was classified, but thanks to Obama, that went out the window. But I was cocksure. I was a young senior chief. I drove a Chevy S10 at the time, and I had a lot of stickers on my truck. You know how I like stickers on my vehicle, right? You should see my truck now. I got all kinds of stuff on it. Yeah. But and it was a certain political bent, obviously. And there was an officer that I worked with. He was an LDO, prior ET. His first name was Eric. I'm drawing a blank on his last name at the moment. But he'd been there, done that. He came from JSOC. He had worked in the community for a while. And I was outside having a cigar or something on a break or whatever, just kind of relaxing. And he came over and said, "Hey, senior, can I have a chat with you?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, sure. Sir, whatever you say." And he sat down and said, how you come across and the things you present are going to impact your leadership, right? And at the time, I think I had already put in to leave DevGroup early so I can go back to the fleet and continue progressing. And he said, "You're going to be leading a lot of different people. It's not like here, right? Because everybody at DevGroup was handpicked at the top of the top, that kind of thing." And my truck was just parked 15, 20 feet away. And he pointed to my truck and said, "What that says about you, how is that going to impact your leadership? When you have that young sailor who's dealing with something and they see your truck, are they going to be able to come to you and talk to you about how they're feeling about something? Or are they going to say, that guy won't understand?" That was one of those, wow. Yeah. He was absolutely right. Because as a leader, you have to maintain that equal footing. You have to bury kind of a lot of your personal beliefs so you can be a more effective leader. So when that individual comes into your office and has to talk about something that you may feel strongly about, but you need to be there for them at that moment in time. Right. You got to be able to listen. You got to be able to not empathize, but really kind of understand what they're getting to and be able to help them. And that day I went home and scraped all the stickers off my truck because I wanted to be a leader that people could come talk to. So I understand that being in the military, being on active duty, you have to internalize some stuff and hold that in, right? Which was fine at the time. But I will say towards the end, when there was a lot of stuff going on socially and there were things in the news and, George Floyd was a big thing at the time. And it was just getting to the point where I could not reconcile the things that the Navy was asking me to do or say with my personal faith and beliefs. It was getting to that point where if I have to go up and talk to somebody or talk to a group of people and they have to bring up this, they're going to bring up a particular subject. If I speak the truth in what I believe, I'm done. Right? So it was kind of fortuitous that my last year in the Navy was COVID because I didn't get to travel. I stayed in the headquarters. But it was a very tough time for me because I knew, and I feel for guys like you and my sons who are now serving today, who have a certain set of personal morals, ethics, beliefs that they have to kind of subside because that's what the Navy's saying you have to do. Or not just the Navy, because this is going on in all branches too. So, brother, feel for you. Yeah. I want you to be successful in the rest of your career. And when it gets to that point where you have to decide, do I do this or I do what my heart tells me to do?
Yeah. It's a hard thing. I mean, look, and it's not so hard that it's like insurmountable because I still love the sailors, right? I still love seeing them grow and develop and become what they're intended to be, which is upstanding members of society, whether in the Navy or in the civilian sector, right? Like I enjoy that part of it. And quite frankly, I enjoy the warfighting part of it. Like I enjoy the idea that we're preparing to defeat our fucking enemies, right? Like I love
and
it.
If you can stay focused on that,
Right.
That's great.
Right.
But there's so many competing demands.
Yeah. I'll tell you
coming down that
something that really, and I'm okay talking about it, I don't care, right? Like the thing that really got to me was after like the whole January 6th thing, right? When we had to have this like violent extremism stand down and we all had to like reaffirm our oath. I was infuriated by that. Like it made me so mad that as an institution we made assumptions and we made everybody reaffirm their oath. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you serious right now? And it's been a lot of that kind of stuff since then. Yeah. And I know that like there's better times ahead, right? Like I've been doing it long enough that like administrations change and
well, let's hope so. Let's hope and pray so.
100%, right? And so I know that I hope and pray that there are better times ahead, but it just it feels culturally like we're either on the precipice of two things. We're either on the precipice of falling off the cliff, or of like doing a complete about face and saying, what the fuck have we been doing these last 20 years? Like, everybody stop. Let's get our head back in the game and let's move forward, right?
I do see kind of an awakening where, kind of for so long people were willing to, oh, it's okay, it's a small thing. Okay, it's a small thing. But then now it's getting to the point like, whoa. I go back to don't ask, don't tell. I don't know if you were serving at that time or not, but
I was.
First class when President Clinton was elected, and at that time I thought it was the end of the world. Oh God! It can't get any worse than this.
Right.
Be careful what you ask for, right? But when they passed "Don't Ask, Don't Tell," right, and which is kind of when they got rid of it, it was kind of like live and let live. Okay, great. What you do at home, I don't care, really. What consenting adults do in the bedroom, whatever. Which was fine because at that time it was just let us live our lives kind of thing. But here we are 25 years later, and now it's like, you will accept this. You will accept this lifestyle, this thing. We have just gone the exactly opposite direction, and there is no sense of you do you, I'll do me, right? Which
right.
I would be much better with.
Yeah.
But when you start telling me that I have to agree with something that at my very core I disagree with, right? And I'm going to go back to the violent extremist thing too, because I remember that going on. And at the time I had 34 years in the Navy. You've been in a while too. We've all through our careers met shitheads. We've met these morons that are just like, really, you fucked hard.
Right.
Come on.
They're out there.
But that's the rare exception. Most service members, and our experience obviously more with Navy, but we both had the pleasure of working with joint forces. Most young Americans that are serving today just want to serve, just want to do their thing. Right? They just want to fight for their country. But when you start saying that, because you're a Christian conservative, you might be extremist. Come on. Where have we gone off the ledge there? Right? There's no slippery slope anymore. It's just straight down. And the fact that you're labeling people because of their faith and beliefs as extremists when they're just, 5 years ago, they were normal people, right?
Right.
Now, because of society says you have to do this, and they're not extremists. They just want to live their lives in accordance with their faith and their beliefs and not have to be told that they have to accept this as the norm. That's a problem. And it creates more division. Because if anything, what that did is divide us further instead of uniting us.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. Obviously, I review surveys, right? We do on a periodic basis. We do our command climate surveys, and I've been doing it for years because I was a CMEO even before I was command master chief, and so if I were to go like, I don't know, 10 years ago till now, with increasing frequency, there are complaints about either Christian conservative or anti-white sentiment, right? Like with increasing frequency, these are comments that you see on these surveys, right? And it's because no group should be marginalized, right? And we're in a place where institutionally, culturally, there is a group that's being marginalized, and it's guys like you and I, right? And look,
well, it's that pendulum swing thing, right?
Yeah.
The pendulum has swung so far to this direction that it's creating that backlash. It needs to come back to the middle. And you and I grew up in a Navy where we went out at liberty with blacks, Hispanics, Filipinos. It didn't matter.
Gay guys, I didn't care, man. Like, we have gay friends. You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
Yeah. And how did that sense of unity get created? It's through our joint hardship. Going through boot camp together, right? And that kind of crucible. Then being on board a ship or some other kind of unit and deploying together, or going on field exercises together, and working through challenging tests and blood, sweat, tears together. Because when you come through that on the other side, everything's stripped away. All right, all those external characteristics are gone. It comes out, are you a sailor or not? Are you a soldier or not? Are you an airman or not? Are you a Marine or not? All right. And we're focusing so much on these, I'm trying to figure the word, not innate, but these physical characteristics. And we're not focusing on the person. Right? Diversity events. Those are things that always used to kind of irk me. From the perspective of diversity is a good thing. Okay? I'm not saying that, but when we focus on it from the perspective of a particular characteristic and not from the focus of all that makes us different, when we bring it together, makes us better as a whole.
There it is. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's a guy like you from Louisiana, a guy like me originally from New England, or I've got a really good buddy. He's black. He's from New England. It doesn't matter, right? We all came together as one. We weathered these trials and tribulations, and on the other side, we were better for it. So, what I've been saying for the past couple of years, if you want to create unity, don't point out the differences. Send that unit out to sea to do some really hard training, drills and exercises. Send that platoon out to the field to do some really hard field exercises. Because when they come back out of that, they're going to be more unified than ever, because they overcame obstacles together and they learned what it means to be a team. And that at its core means you are, as a person, are subservient to the unit.
Yeah.
Right? Until we get back to that mindset of these external characteristics don't matter. It's what's here and what's here that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, talked about character.
Yeah.
He's spot on. It's all about the character of a person, not the color of their skin.
Content of their character, right? I will say this, David. So I think that the military is probably the best example of how to effectively bring different groups of people together. Like, we do it better than anybody, right? The American military.
We were, and I hate to use that term, were the last true meritocracy. You got to advance on your merits.
Right.
Now, there are people out there that want to be victims and want to say, well, it's because of this skin color or this, this particular oh God, I'm forgetting words again. When someone speaks in a different language, they have an accent. A particular accent, or stop thinking about those things. Stop making that a point of divisiveness, but instead make it a point of, hey, when we bring everybody together, we're better for it.
Well, again, I think the military does it extremely well. I think America could take a lesson from how we do things when it comes to that. But the thing that irks me is that we have bureaucrats that are imposing their agendas on the military, and quite frankly, it's affecting our standing with the American public, right? Like, the most trusted organization, it has been the military for decades, right? And as these bureaucrats impose their agendas on the military, well, the American public's like, well, woke, fucking woke military, they're not going to fucking defend us, right? Like, and like that sentiment is growing in the American public, and it's frightening to somebody like me that's like in it, and I know how capable we are, but like, I don't want the American public to think of us as you know, the post-Vietnam era military, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I don't want to go there, man. And it feels like we're heading that way, and not because of anything we on active duty are doing, but because of the things that these bureaucrats are imposing,
being pushed down. Yeah.
Right?
You're 100% right, Dean. We've got to get back to the basics, and that goes back to standards too, right? And holding people to standards, and that's one of the things I'm hearing from a lot of my buddies nowadays. It's just so hard to enforce standards because people are being told, "Oh, don't worry about that," or "Don't worry about uniforms," or "Don't worry about haircuts," or the uniform board. Oof, don't get me started on that one, right? Oh, it's okay. You can have a ponytail, or you can do this. Uniform, if you break down the Latin word, is of one form, right? Or one characteristic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and they couch it in the perspective of, oh, we want to be the employer of choice. We want people to come to us. They still will. Young Americans come into the military because they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Deep down in their heart, right? People don't enlist to be a screw up. You know, and you've probably sat at quite a few DRBs. I've sat more than my fair share. That young sailor who it just is, you hear their story, and they grew up in hard scrabble wherever, rough childhood. They wanted to get away from that, so they joined the military. And what happens? They gravitate right back towards it. There's no accountability. There's no standards. There's no holding people to that. And when you ask that, why are you here? You say you joined because you want to be different. You want to make something better yourself. But then I also look at the chief or the senior chief and say, what have you done to help this sailor? What have you done to hold them accountable? And not just hold them accountable, there's the follow-up, right? Okay, you screwed up. I'm going to hold you accountable for it, but I'm going to help you get past this. If you're willing, I'm going to teach you what it takes to become a good sailor. And I think that's where we've lost the ball.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we got too many chiefs out there, and I'm going to speak in Navy specifically, who are more worried about coins and T-shirts and slogans than they are about being the chief and leading their sailors.
They want to do the sexy thing, and they don't want to do the work, right? You know what I mean? Like, you got to do the work. Do the work first, and then enjoy the fruits of your labor.
I always told selectees when they came, from the time I was becoming a more senior chief, all the way through my command tours. When I sat down with selectees, I'll tell them, I said, if you do chiefing right, it'll be the toughest job you'll ever love.
100%. I put that in every charge book. I put that in every charge book. Like, if you're doing it right, it's gonna be the hardest thing you ever do.
And there are going to be days that suck, right?
Yep.
But there's going to be those moments when you see that one sailor who you made a difference in their life. And there's a couple examples. On the bush, there was one guy I was working with, older guy who was from Philly, South Philly, tough area. Again, he joined the military to make something of his life. He's a little older, so he was already in his mid-20s, and he's a seaman in deck division, right? Tough, right? Because he's a little older, but he's being treated like an 18-year-old because he's an E2, E3, whatever. And he came up in front of me twice at DRB. And the second time he went to mast. But we were able to work with him. And less than a year later, he would sail the quarter and became the junior sail of the year. But it took direct, involved leadership, working with a sailor on a regular basis. Hey, you can be better than this. You can do more. And not lowering the bar for him, but raising the bar and saying, hey, I'm going to give you the tools you need to get up here. I'm going to be here for you to help you get there. I'm not going to lower the bar for you, but by God, I'm going to help you get there. And it's those moments that you go, it's all worth it, right?
Absolutely. this sounds cliche, but it's the God's honest truth, right? Like, there's probably two reasons why I continue to do this, right? One of them obviously is family stability, good, honest paycheck, right? Certainly patriotism. I love my country. Like, I get emotional thinking about how much I love America, right? But that's probably why I signed up to serve, right? But why I continue to do it, especially past 20, knowing that I have plenty of opportunities outside of this, is because of the legacy that I'm leaving in my wake, right? So the people that I and my teams have the ability to influence, to set on a path, right? And then to see them in 5 and 10 years from now, and then this deck seaman that used to work for me is now a chief, and now this guy got commissioned, and to know that some of the things that we're talking about are in them, and that they're continuing to spread it. That's it. Like, that's why I keep doing it.
That's exactly why I served for so long.
Yeah.
People say, hey, you could have got out at 20, and I was Master Chief at 20. I could have take the money and run. Yeah. But it's not about the money. Yeah, the Navy provides us a good quality of life. The pay's pretty good when you consider all the benefits and everything that go along with it. But for those of us that continue to serve, it's not about the money. It's about the people we get to work for.
Right.
And what I mean for, I'm not talking about the people above us.
Yep, I know.
I'm talking about those sailors that we're entrusted to lead, mentor, motivate, and develop.
100%, man.
And realize that when people ask me if I miss the Navy, I tell them no. But I miss the sailors. I miss the people I worked with.
Yeah.
That part I do miss. I don't miss the politics. I don't miss the mundane bullshit that we're forced to deal with. But I do miss that opportunity to help that young sailor become something more than themselves.
Yeah, man. That's it. Yeah, I listened to a podcast. I don't know. You would like it. It's a guy named Andy Frisella. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
Yeah, just take a mental note of that one, Andy Frisella. And what he says is, and I totally believe it, right, is that personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion, right?
Repeat that.
Personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion, right?
Yeah, I heard you say that before. Yeah,
I got that from him, and that is what it is, man. Like, if I can be the best version of myself, and then I can encourage people to also be the best versions of themselves, then maybe we can turn this bitch around, right? But I think that's what it's going to take. Yeah. I think it's
not getting any easier because
change it, right? It's got to be a grassroots movement to hey man, we all got to do better, right?
But unfortunately, we need the top-down support for that, and that's the point that's missing today. Just earlier today, I was texting with an old shipmate of mine, and I don't know the whole details of the story. And as we all know, there's 3 sides to every story, right?
Yep.
But here's a LDO lieutenant who went to NJP and was DFC'd for upholding standards. Okay, that's his story, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But unfortunately, because of what I've seen and what I experienced, I believe it.
Right.
He was trying to hold people accountable, hold them to a standard. And they said he was creating a toxic work environment, and they fired him. This is a very successful sailor. He worked for me before. And when I read that, I was like, what the hell?
Right.
I just can't believe that this individual would have truly created a quote unquote toxic work environment. But I can certainly believe there's a lot of people that would have worked for him who, when he said, nope, this is the standard, I'm going to hold you to it, complained and ended his career. and that's the part, that's to me, that's the scariest part. When leaders are afraid to lead.
Yeah. Yeah, it puts us in a bad place, man. It puts us in a real bad place, especially, I've done most of my career out here, and So I won't get into anything that's not open source, right? But I mean, we all see it's all in the news now.
Yeah.
But I've been here my whole career, and it's nothing new, right? But I will say that things like that, right? And all of the different things that they're making us do just degrade from our ability to fight our fucking adversaries. Like, can we focus on that, please? Can we please focus on becoming war fighters that know how to sink ships?
Especially when you look at now, I won't use the Russians because they're a shit show anyway.
Right.
But when you look at what the Chinese are doing, when you look at their forces, when you look at and I'm no fan of the CCP. Okay, let's get that straight up front. But they are, excuse me, training their people to fight. They are not worried about stupid bullshit like pronouns. Right?
Nope.
They are, their kids in schools are learning geometry, trigonometry, calculus, important things. They're also being indoctrinated, whatever.
Right.
But that's what we're competing against. And when we're not focused on a tactical advantage and being the best war fighters we can be,
yeah,
we're losing the ball. And you've heard me say this before, and you've heard this before. Our job as a military, when you boil it down to brass tacks, is to kill the bad guys and blow their shit up, right?
Yeah, blow shit up and kill people. That's it.
That's what the military is here for, right? We're a tactical and strategic deterrence to tell the other people who want to screw us up to say, you don't want to mess with us. But when we're worried about, like, whether or not he's a she or she's a he, or, oh, we got to have all these diversity events and whatever, we're losing the ball. We've lost sight of what's important. Brilliant on the basics. Remember that?
Yes.
Remember that? What happened to that?
Right.
We're not focused on that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, man. I mean, trust me, I just left McCampbell before I came to Massawa, and we've got deployable units up here doing God's work. And so, here I am as the installation guy, and I've got time to think about these things because I'm not doing Taiwan Straits transits. You know what I mean? We've got
been there, done that, brother.
We got folks out there doing God's work, right? But it just, I don't know, man. It's not all doom and gloom, but like when you see the trans female admiral, it just.
Don't get me started on that one. Oh,
it's like, fuck, man.
No, you're absolutely right. We got a lot of great young Americans out there, and in the community I served in when I retired, the information warfare community, I traveled all over the world, meeting these young Americans who are doing some really cool things behind very thick doors and high security, and it's eye-watering what they do and what their capabilities are.
Right.
We need to focus on that.
Right.
We need to keep them focused on that.
Right.
Because who was the fleet admiral when we were out in Hawaii? A great guy, big mustache.
Swift.
Admiral Swift.
Yeah.
I think it was him that I heard him say, if the shit goes down, the balloon goes up today.
Right.
We may get kicked in the teeth and kicked in the junk a couple times too.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're going to be victorious. And the reason for that is the American service member. Because when you look at these other services, China, Russia, our biggest competitors, they're all conscripts.
Right.
Yeah, there's no autonomy there. There's no lower level leadership. But when you look at our sailors and what they do, that young airman on the flight deck, or that soldier E4, E5 running a team out in the field, things like that, they're doing it, and they know, and they're doing it well.
Yeah.
But you got to focus on that and give them the tools they need, because that is going to carry the day. It's that young American who is raised their right hand to say, I will, who's going to win the day. And that's what we have to give the tools to.
Yeah.
Real quick, because I just noticed that people might be seeing this. I got to show the rest of the shirt.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Yeah,
Please do.
because it makes a little more difference when you see the rest of it.
And there it is.
Got it? Okay, good.
I love it, dude.
I don't want people thinking the wrong thing about me, because
Yeah. Not a fan.
not a big fan of the former VP. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude.
And I can say that because I'm retired.
I know, man. I know. And I'm happy to have you say it on my podcast. Yeah. Hey, so David, I do want to go ahead and wind it up. We're a couple hours in.
Yes, sir.
Which is awesome, man. I've had a fantastic time talking to you, man. Let's do it again. Let's do it more often.
Absolutely, brother. Even if it's just us chatting, not even recording anything.
Yeah.
Brother, I miss you. I miss having time with you and just chewing the fat with you.
Yeah.
When we were in Hawaii together, those are great times. I love you, bro.
Yeah.
So anytime, I'm glad to come online with you, or just I'm typically out here on a Friday evening with a cigar and a whiskey. So let's go ahead and connect anyways. But I really enjoy chatting with you, and more importantly, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on with you on your podcast. And I wish you all the success, bro.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. Feelings mutual. I love you, man. I say that like unabashedly. Like, I love you. I respect you, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me and my family and my career, and just being a really great role model for me, man. So just really proud to know you, man. So thank you.